Hello and good day to one and all. I am Salima Sultana, Associate Professor from the School of Business Management. I'll be guiding you through this course, Business Ethics. This course is a philosophical study of moral issues in business. Topics include corporate responsibility, conflict of interest in sales practices, preferential hiring like minorities and women, and employee rights, personal morality versus employer morality, and finally, impact of cultural and other related issues on business decisions. Upon successful completion of this course, you should be able to develop an understanding of the historical background of the moral, ethical thought and theory. Examine methods of developing and applying ethical principles. Apply consistent and logical reasoning processes to resolution of ethical issues confronting the modern business, its managers and employees. Examine and discuss actual as well as hypothetical cases. There are 12 topics taken for discussion, and each topic highlights an ethical issue related to business operations and management. The first topic is an introduction to the course with an overview of ethics. At the end of this topic, students will be able to define ethics, morality and moral standards. They should be able to also explain the relationship between ethics and business, discuss the nature of business ethics, and have a very good understanding about moral reasoning and how moral reasoning gives moral responsibility. The word ethics in Latin is called ethicus and in Greek is called ethikos. It has the meaning character or manners. The character of a man is expressed in terms of his conduct. Conduct of a person is a series of actions which when taken together can be termed as good or bad, right or wrong, moral or immoral. Thus, ethics can also be termed as the science of character of a person expressed as right or wrong, conduct or action. The concept of ethics deals with human beings only, but also organizations managed by these humans. This is because only humans can distinguish between the consequences and the means to gain such consequences. The study of ethics is a social science, as it is a systematic behavior or conduct of an action. It is a normative science which judges values on the basis of ideals. These ideals set standards and norms to be followed in a society which are considered acceptable. It is a voluntary human conduct, not forced by persons or circumstances, which means when a person does an act beyond his control or due to external forces acting on him, his behavior is excused by society and even by law, even though it may be unacceptable under normal circumstances. For example, when in self-defense a person injures someone, it will not be considered as an offense by law, and even society will feel pity on his condition. Ethics is also referred to as virtues or traits of character that help individuals achieve their goals and are beneficial to the larger community. Courage, compassion, generosity, kindness, honesty, and concern for others are a few to name them. Business ethics is applicable which is based on ethics in business. It is a study of moral standards and how these apply to the systems and organizations through which modern societies produce and distribute goods and services, and to the people who work within these organizations. Morality and moral standards help in moral reasoning, which results in ethical behavior, and when such ethics are applied on organizations, business ethics comes into place. Now let us take the first term, ethics, and try to understand it clearly. How it is philosophical in nature. It is considered as a certain behavioral pattern of people in a society which differentiates man from animals so as to mingle in the society. The rules adopted are not universal and will vary from person to person, nation to nation, and culture to culture. As a child to an adult, man develops through 3 stages that mold his character and refine him over the years with certain characteristic features which give him the overall personality development. Stages of ethical development could be divided into 3. Level 1 is known as the pre-conventional stage. Here, it is a child who understands his basic needs and wants and emits behaviors that are more self-centered or work within a small group of himself and family. This is applied and followed either for the fear of punishment or for the hope of reward. Level 2 is known as the conventional stage. The child grows into an adult and widens his circle of acquaintances, of friends, neighbors, and colleagues. Rules here are followed because of a sense of belonging to a particular group. Level 3 is known as the post-conventional stage. He is a mature adult now and has gained experience, fame, and money. Rules are beyond his personal interests, and it is more for the group, society, country, or the world he lives in. Many factors decide ethical development, like family environment, educational background, religious and cultural belief, and finally, the personal experiences of the individual. The next term that we should be familiar with is known as business ethics. It is an oxymoron, which is similar to terms like virtual reality, original copies, constant variable, etc. This is because business and ethics are 2 contradicting terms. The questions that normally come in mind are, can a business be ethical? If ethics is applied, can a business be conducted? Just like humans, businesses also can make choices as they are considered as living and growing entities. Profit maximization at the cost of social responsibility and vice versa is a balance which most businesses today have learned to recognize and apply. In a competitive market, ethical practices are watched and appreciated by the customers, government, and society at large. Once unethical codes of practices creep in, customer confidence is lost and the business empire will crumble soon. And failed reputation is very difficult to restore because of media coverage and globalization. Of late, it has been established that modern business houses adopt ethical code of conduct as policy manual. Social audit departments are created and contribute something back to the society from where profits are begotten. Thus, every business earns profits to generate revenue to their investors and employees, and at the same time, to be a market leader, certain ethical practices are followed that will keep up quality and create brand image in due course. Now, to bring about the relationship between ethics and business ethics, we need to understand that individual ethics become business ethics because a corporate functions through individuals. When ethical investors and employees come together, they develop an ethical corporate. Hence, business ethics is just an extension of an individual's or a group's image. There are always arguments against business ethics. It is believed that people in organizations should single-mindedly pursue the financial interests of their firms and not sidetrack energy by doing good work. There are 3 arguments in support of this view. In a perfectly competitive free market, the pursuit of profit will by itself ensure that the members of the society are served in the most socially beneficial manner. Business managers should single-mindedly pursue the interests of their firms and should ignore ethical considerations. To be ethical, it is enough for business people merely to obey the law. So, there is definitely a strong relationship between ethics and business ethics, either in favor or against. The next term would be to know about morality. The study of morality is ethics. When ethics tries to deduce and investigate on an issue of the right and the wrong, morality is the subject matter of the investigation. Morality can be defined as the standards or norms that individuals fix in order to follow them in practice to be ethical. These standards are scales which act as principles and policies that get adopted by individuals, society, corporate, and even law. Ethics is not the only way to study morality. Sociology, psychology, social sciences also teach about morality. Not all standards can be termed as morality. Standard of language differentiates between grammatical and non-grammatical. Standard of aesthetics appreciates good and bad art. So this understanding is important to apply and practice ethics in real life. Ethical relativism is the position that there is no universal ethical principle or set of principles by which to judge the morality of an action. Each society or social group has its own set of moral rules. Thus, ethics cannot be reduced to some master list of rules applicable to everyone. Moral standards are expressed as general rules or statements. For example, always tell the truth. It is usually expressed as statements describing objects or features of objects that have worth. Honesty is good, injustice is bad. These are certain terms used in society very commonly. The main sources of moral standards are friends, societal influences, learning process, experience, and standardized concepts. By nature, moral standards deal with matters that we think can seriously injure or seriously benefit the human beings, and they are not established or changed by the decisions of particular authoritative bodies. These standards should be preferred to other values, including self-interest, and should be based on impartial considerations. They are associated with special emotions and vocabulary. Low self-esteem, guilt, shame, and hence morality and moral standards become an integral part of an individual's behavior. Now, what is moral reasoning? It is a process by which individuals judge the moral standards and apply them in practice. It is an understanding of what reasonable moral standards require, prohibit, value, or condemn. It is also an evidence or information that shows that a particular person, policy, institution has the kinds of features that these moral standards require. To apply moral reasoning, the following points should be kept in mind. The factual information that a person accepts as evidence for moral judgment, and the moral standards needed to relate this logical information to the moral judgment. It should be remembered that moral reasoning must be logical. The factual evidence that helps personal judgment must be accurate, relevant, and complete. Moral standards involved in a person's moral reasoning must be consistent. Consistency here means one must be willing to accept the consequences of one's moral standards in all similar circumstances. Now comes the term moral responsibility. It is nothing but a moral duty or a moral obligation. When a person has used his best judgment based on his family background, educational qualification, religious and cultural beliefs, on the moral standards through moral reasoning, an ethical action is performed, and this action should be a moral responsibility of the individual concerned. When there is accountability, there is responsibility, and hence an individual realizes the consequences of his actions and will be on the best behavior. This individual, when employed, will have employee responsibility, and when he is an investor, will have a stockholder responsibility, and collectively becomes corporate responsibility. Thus, to conclude, corporates are bound by moral responsibility towards the society, customers, creditors, competitors, government, and the economy, which provides a platform to sustain. Now, once we are familiar with all these terms, which are fundamental to our learning of this particular course, Business Ethics, let us try to apply two examples. And these are actually known as myths in business ethics. As we have learned earlier, that ethics is nothing which is universal. It can vary from person to person. Let us take situation 1. Here it means that anything which does not cross the legal framework is ethical. Is it true? The example here is that sometimes we find that there are certain painkiller drugs sold in certain underdeveloped countries by leading drug makers, which are banned in other countries. When used over long periods of time, these drugs may cause serious complications and may even lead to cancer. Ironically, these drugs are not only freely produced in large quantities, but are also sold across the counter without doctors' prescriptions. It may be legal till the government does not ban these drugs, but undoubtedly it is unethical to risk the life of uneducated and innocent people. So, it is left to the people to decide whether it is ethical or not based on their own moral standards, moral reasoning, whether there is a moral responsibility. The second myth is choosing the lesser evil is ethical. For example, in many impoverished countries, young children are employed as child laborers and are given duties that they perform which are harmful. Governments, UNICEF, and human rights activists condemn these acts as illegal and unethical. But the argument in favor of such employment by businessmen is that if these children are not employed, they may die of hunger. So the choice is to accept a lesser evil as ethical. Hence, moral reasoning will help in making ethical actions, and each individual may differ in his reasoning and justification, and so his actions also are different. So this is to conclude the topic, which is the introduction, or to make an overview of the whole course. And we will be moving on to the topic 2, which would be theories of economic justice.